Hello. Hello, folks. Oh, folks. Okay, good. This is the True American Podcast. I really wasn't planning on doing this. Today I was doing a lot of research, and I'm also preparing to go to do some other very important things. But I just read Dr. Cosby's official statement. This is a statement he put out after he said what he said about Deion Sanders leaving Jackson State and going to this Colorado University. And I think Dr. Cosby misspoke, but at the same time, I think he might have deliberately misspoke in order to bring attention to his bigger questions. This is not about Deion Sanders. This is not about Kevin Cosby. When you read Dr. Cosby's statement, you'll see that. And what I'm going to do is read excerpts from it. And then later on in another podcast, I'm going to talk more about it, and I'm going to go in on it. It's a great statement. And so it starts off by saying, official statement from HBCU President Dr. Kevin Cosby regarding his controversial tweet commenting on Deion Sanders' exit from Jackson State University, HBCU. Now, I'm just randomly taking excerpts out of this statement. But these are important things because, again, once we read this and start thinking about it, you begin to see, man, this is bigger than just a simple matter of, Dr. Cosby, he says something impolite or ugly, whatever, about Deion Sanders leaving Jackson State. No, this is bigger than that, much bigger than that. And that's what Dr. Cosby is trying to get us to see. And I think he does a very effective job with this statement. And after I read this statement, I got really excited. I said, oh, my Lord, this is an opportunity for us black folk here in Louisville, Kentucky, to start having some serious discussions, political discussions about the HBCU that exists right here in Louisville, Kentucky, one of two that exist in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the larger questions that raises, and also get us serious-minded black folk here in Louisville to talk about institution building, all right? Now, look, let me take this excerpt here. This is, quote, when Deion told his players in his farewell address that coaches are either terminated or elevated, end quote. Such language buys into the notion that leaving predominantly black space to work in predominantly white space is an elevation. Such language reinforces the myth of white supremacy and black inferiority. Even if Deion meant that the elevation to Colorado is a financial and visibility elevation for him, that begs the question, why can't black institutions experience the same type of elevation? The answer lies in the resource and wealth disparity that exists between the black and white communities. Hey, it's an important question. Let's deal with that. Let's struggle with that. Let's go back and forth on that. Okay? All right, now, I'm continuing with this quote. Black people are 13% of the population, but possess less than 3% of the wealth in the United States. White Americans are 60% of the population and control 90% of the wealth. This wealth disparity is reflected in every area of life, including HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. The top 10 predominantly white U.S. colleges and universities have a combined endowment of around $333 billion. That's $333 billion. Folks, I don't think I can begin to count that high. I'm continuing with the quote. The top 10 HBCUs have a combined endowment of around $2.2 billion. $2.2 billion. When it comes to a bidding war for the best coaches, best students, coaches, and scholars, $2.2 billion cannot compete with $333 billion. Hey, fact. That's just a fact. I mean, the numbers are clear. That's just a fact. So maybe one thing we need to be talking about is how can we boost HBCU endowments? What are we going to need to do? Because let me tell you something. Most endowments, they're in the stock market. Stock market is colorblind. Stock market is colorblind. We're doing something wrong. We need to figure out how to do better than what we're doing. I mean, that's all there is to that. Because what Dr. Cosby is saying is correct. But, how do we do? What do we do? How do we do it? How do we enhance and get more money into HBCU endowments. All right, I'm jumping a little bit here. All right, here's another quote. With limited resources, HBCUs are achieving amazing results. And you know what? That's true for us as a people in this country from the get-go. I mean, if you really look at it objectively and stop listening to these white cultural Marxists, I mean, we're a folk that have just done amazing things. I mean, out of nothing, we've done a lot. Anyway, let me continue. HBCUs are just 3% of the colleges and universities in the United States. Yet, they graduate approximately 25% of blacks with a baccalaureate degree. 50% of all black school teachers are trained at an HBCU. So obviously, HBCUs are filling a need. You know, there's a market. There's a need for them. Okay, so that goes back to, hey, we need to pump some money into these endowments. What can we do to boost their endowments so these folks can continue doing what they're doing? And I cannot tell you the number of times I've spoken with some black folk who are trying to start independent schools, and I told them, you cannot make it 100% tuition free. You'll fail. You'll fail. You got to create an endowment, and I can't tell you the number of times they just ignore you. They just I don't get it. I don't think that's happening at the HBCU level, but I do think community-wide, we're ignorant about the stock market, endowments, etc. And we need to stop being so ignorant about the stock market and endowments, etc. We need to build those endowments because the issues that Dr. Cosby's raising, I mean, it's dead on. The numbers are clear. Forget all this stuff about, oh, Dr. Cosby's jealous of Deion. Dr. Cosby ain't no jealous of no Deion Sanders. Shut up. Dr. Cosby is a legend, and he's a legend. Deion Sanders is a legend. Dr. Cosby's an achiever. Deion Sanders is an achiever. Dr. Cosby's a visionary. Deion Sanders is a visionary. And let me say this too, folks. Let me put this in context for you. I have a lot of serious disagreements with Dr. Cosby on politics, ideology, and theology. But you know what? A legend is a legend is a legend. I mean, you just can't, I'm not one to ignore reality. I'm not one of these idiots running around thinking that men are women and men, women can be men and all this other kind of stuff. All right? Let me go on, make this one more statement here, then I gotta get. But I wanted to get this out there, and I want to get people thinking about it and talking about it, debating it, discussing it. This is important. This is a very powerful statement. Okay, quote, recently our women's basketball team played against Bellarmine University. Now, he's talking about the Simmons University. Despite this being the program's first year at Simmons, our players competed against a Division I program that was 4 levels above them. The game was played at Freedom Hall. When Simmons College plays its games, the only venue we have available is the St. Stephen Baptist Church gym. Simmons has no, I'm assuming he's talking about Simmons University. Simmons has no student center, food services, or student housing. Only because of the graciousness of Spalding University, the students that come from 28 states to matriculate at Simmons are allowed to use their student housing. Folks, we should be ashamed of ourselves, and I'm including myself in that. We have an HBCU, one of 2 HBCUs in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, right here in Louisville, right here in our backyard. Almost in some places, for some of us, it's literally in our backyards. And the president is saying what? No student center, no food services, or student housing. Come on, folks. We got to do better than that. We got to do better than that. We can do better than that. We have many examples in our history as a people in this country where we have done better than that. Mary Bethune College, Tuskegee University. Come on, folks. We have all sorts of examples. And we got to step it up. And I'm talking to myself when I say that, too. So we really need, this is a great statement. I'm so glad Dr. Cosby put it out there. And I think it's just a great opportunity for us to talk, to talk. And I'm not trying to turn this into a political thing, left, right, or Democrat, Republican, or anything like that. But I am, this is going out on my True American podcast for the most part. I use this podcast to bring on conservative thinkers, scholars, intellectuals to talk about, politics from a conservative perspective, Kentucky politics, Louisville politics from a conservative perspective. But this is one issue where I'm appealing to black folk. Come on, folk. We need to sit down and have a serious discussion about this. This ain't about Warnock versus Herschel Walker. This is about building institute. Look. Let me give you this quote. This is what it's about. Let me give you this quote. Strong black institutions located in the black community is the black community's way out, because black institutions are a beachhead to a community in need of resources. Black excellence depends on investment into black institutions rather than the extracting black wealth, black talent to serve in predominantly white institutions. Okay? There's nothing anti-white, anti-American, Semitic about that statement. He's just basically saying, black folk, how are we going to do better as a people? How are we going to be folks that are really contributing to America's prosperity and constitutional republic? What do we need to do to lift ourselves up? And I think one thing we need to do, speaking to black folk in Louisville, Kentucky, we need to engage in, dare I say it, some self-help stuff. Lift ourselves up. I'm sorry. Lift ourselves up. I'm sorry. Booker T. Washington, that's what he did down there in Tuskegee University. He said to those students and staff people, hey, we got to do what we can do. Use the resources we have, be good stewards of the resources we have, and build. And as they started building and building, he and Booker T went out there and just was fundraising all over the country. Some good-hearted white folks stepped up and said, hey, I'll contribute to that. Well, that's what we need to do right now. Dr. Cosby is that Booker T. Washington. I don't care if Dr. Cosby likes black conservatives or not. He needs to shut up. I don't care. Dr. Cosby is our Booker T. Washington. He has given us that beachhead. And now as a people, we need to say to Dr. Cosby and his staff people, hey, what can we do? And what can we do? How can we do for self? Oops, hello, who said that too? Wait a minute, some guy named Elijah Muhammad? I don't know. What can we do? What can we do to lift ourselves up? Wait a minute, so who said that? Some guy named Booker T. Washington? I don't know. What can we do as a mighty people? We're a mighty people. And we can do what we want. Who said that? What? Marcus Garvey? I don't know. He's done it. He's created that beachhead. And let me tell you something. I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to some of you listening to this right here. This is probably one of the most exciting statements I've read in a long time. And I do a lot of reading because of my podcast. And boy, this really got me going, folks. This is the end of my podcast here, The True American. I want to thank you for listening, and I want all folk to chime in, to share what you got to share. Share your thoughts, share your comments. Please like, subscribe, and tell your friends about this podcast, The True American Podcast.